It is John Pollock here, along with Robin Black and smiling John Ramdeen, and we have lots to discuss today. Earlier this week, I had a chance to speak with UFC middleweight champion Michael Bisping, who is promoting his role in the new Triple X film that is now out, and here is a snippet of that interview with Michael Bisping.
Well, I actually found out just recently I got to have a knee surgery, so nothing major, just a clean-up. I've got a slightly torn meniscus, a couple of things going on in there, so I've got to get that knee surgery taken care of. We scheduled that, and I should be having that within the next couple of weeks. Get that taken care of, and then I'll probably be defending the belt around, I don't know, May, something like that, I would guess. And then acting-wise, yeah, there's a few things in the pipeline. I actually fly up to Toronto on Saturday for a TV show that I'm filming. And yeah, you know, got a few things in the pipeline, but we'll see. Until you sign a contract, it's all talk.
Was there any serious talks to the Tyron Woodley fight, or was that a lot of the two of you having a lot of fun with everybody?
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, Tyron said he wanted to fight, and I was like, look, listen, if you want to fight 100%, all good, I'm totally down for that, but I don't think it would be a good idea for you. But, you know, so I was having a little bit of fun with it, but we were kind of serious. We actually did say to Dana, listen, you know, if Conor can bloody fight all these different belts, then so can we. And he wanted to do it, and if Dana wanted to do it, I'd have done it 100%. But he's fighting Wonder Boy. And, yeah, I'm moving on, sadly.
So that is Michael Bisping, the middleweight champion, who is going to be needing at least a small surgery on his knee. Nothing major, but still a slightly torn meniscus takes him out of the immediate cards that are coming up. If you were expecting him to fight in Buffalo, it's looking like May, June, that might be a more realistic date. And it's yet another division that's somewhat on hold for a couple of months, John, and I know what that can only mean.
Yeah, interim title, right?
Mike's going to be pissed when he finds out this one's going to be for one of 3 middleweight interim titles. They're not going to do 3.
It was funny when I tweeted out that news. The amount of jokes about interim titles, like it is just a running gag now, and it's not even preposterous to think that this champion is not fighting till May, and we want to schedule a Yoel Romero fight for April, and sure, we'll make it an interim title. I think it's just. It's just become the go-to now.
Would that be attractive if you're Yoel Romero? I guess it does, or does it matter if Michael Bisping he wants to be back May or June?
He said he's hoping.
He's hoping to be. There's no guarantees. No. What happens if it's later? If there's some complication. Michael Bisping's not 20 years old anymore,
and he likes to be in shape.
So when you take all those into consideration, does Yoel Romero wait for Michael Bisping, or
he said yes?
Will he?
Yes. That's what he said.
The fact is, he doesn't know when that's going to be. If May comes and June comes and then September comes and you still don't have a date, and the UFC says, "Hey, we'll give you an interim title against either Luke Rockhold or Jacare or somebody, Gegard Mousasi," does he take that? Is that worth it to him, the interim title?
A year ago, people were like, "No, I'm not waiting. I'm going to fight." And then Tyron Woodley was like, he didn't fight for like 2 years. One punch on Lawler, and he was the champion of the world, making real money. So it can work to wait. It can work the interim title. If with that comes pay-per-view points and championship money, I think most
that's
of these
a big if that I don't know the answer to. And if not, there's not a ton of incentive. Okay, I'm going to fight one of the top middleweights in the world.
5 rounds.
Risk my standing as the next contender for Michael Bisping's championship. What is the risk-reward ratio in all of this if you're Yoel Romero? And I think that's a great point about Michael Bisping, Rob, and the fact that his fight, he always stands on his conditioning, and against Yoel Romero, that would be key. If Michael Bisping's winning that fight, it's probably because of the later rounds.
You know, and I really analyzed Mike when I was doing a breakdown, looking at him after the Rockhold fight. And I dug really deep into how people use their energy systems. And he is much closer to a middle distance runner in how he trains to be capable of sprints and recovers as well as long distance type exertion. Being able to, his anaerobic threshold is really unique. And that's something that he wins fights with. He's weaponized his conditioning. And so I don't think Michael Bisping just kind of rolls off the couch, goes, "Oh yeah, the knee feels great." My English accent. I apologize to all the British people. Rolls off the couch and says, "Oh, my knee feels great. I'll take a fight in 3 weeks." Mike wants to be in crazy shape.
Yeah, that approach that you talk about, Michael Bisping's ability to, have his energy systems at all levels. Can everybody play that game, or can that be taught to everybody? Can everybody take to that type of philosophy? It seems like a philosophy, and Nick Diaz is able to do that. Can everybody do that?
Nick Diaz is more of a pure conditioning guy. Tyron Woodley is a anaerobic guy, and Mike floats between the two, and that is, in my belief, the optimum way to be able to express energy in fights. And it can all be trained, but it takes time, and it takes expertise, and it takes commitment. Energy systems are renewable, so how quickly can you renew them? They have a ceiling, how high can you raise that ceiling? And they have an efficiency in the way you use them, how efficient can you become? Conor McGregor was mocked openly by all of his haters, who are many, yet some of them will still pay £4 to watch the man be interviewed by Ariel, I'm quite certain. But he was mocked because, and even Eddie was saying that this guy, after 2.5 rounds, McGregor went back and became an obsessed student of that aspect of the game, and raised his maximum capacity, raised his ability and speed with which he recovered, and lowered the amount of energy he uses and became more efficient at it. If you can raise all three of them, you can become better at it. But it's a lifelong series of growth and improvement. And so Mike has done that his whole career, and it's why he is one of the very, very best conditioned athletes for the specific demands of combat.
He also brought up the Tyron Woodley fight. They had put that video out there. I don't think people took it too seriously at the time. And it seems like it was just this kind of, let's throw it out there and see what the public responds to. Is that a fight of any interest to you? Because I just see the two guys, they're on totally different paths. They're champions in separate weight classes. I don't think this is, and 180 pounds, I don't buy that for a second that's going to be happening.
Dude. Yeah, I don't think that's realistic. I mean, when we think of Tyron Woodley, we think of all the cool matchups that Tyron Woodley can have at 170 pounds. When I think of Tyron Woodley and matchups, Michael Bisping isn't one of the fighters I want to see him at. There's too many other fights for Michael Bisping at 185 pounds. Who knows?
I feel Woodley was just throwing every fight against the wall, seeing what would stick before Thompson.
Of course, he's trying to get big names.
Just smart.
We all love Stephen Thompson. If you're a fan of martial arts, you're going to love Stephen Thompson. But the guy's so polite. There's no controversy. There's no way you're going to convince people that Stephen Thompson is mad at Tyron Woodley in this fight, because he's just such a good dude. You want a Nick Diaz. You want a Conor McGregor. You want a Michael Bisping that will drop F-bombs and garner so much attention so you get more money on the pay-per-view.
With Woodley, we've talked about him a lot over the past few weeks, and there's always talk about who he wants to fight and who people don't want to fight and what they're saying and stuff. And I've decided for Woodley, I'm going to only look at the way he fights now. I'm only going to look at what a great athlete he is, what an amazing combat sportsman he is, how physically incredible he is, how technically skilled he is. I know he's distracting us with all of these other things, but I'm refusing to be distracted. I'm going to only be a fan of Tyron Woodley's actual time in the cage, and I'm going to ignore all the other stuff because it distracts you. Tyron Woodley is a brilliant martial artist. Tyron Woodley is the welterweight champion of the world. That is the hardest division in the world to be champion of. And whatever he says, and wherever you like him or don't like him, just look at his fighting. Just look at his athleticism, and you'll really like Tyron Woodley.
Is that difficult to divorce, though? Because so many of these fighters, especially once you get to that championship level, and we talk about pay-per-view points, and the business side of this, it influences so many different aspects. And I think it completely curbs their behavior publicly, because you see champions that suddenly, when you have a cut of the pay-per-view, you're a lot more vocal in public, because that's what you believe the public wants and the public responds to. Rightly or wrongly.
You are absolutely right, man. We are, when we get rewarded for anything, we do it more. So if you're getting rewarded for acting like an ass clown in public and talking stuff and making fun of people and insulting people, I mean, Chael Sonnen is one of my very favorite people in the fight business as a guy, and he's hilarious. So when you go and you see that, and he's rewarded for that, and he's given more money and more exposure and all of that, if you're another fighter, you're like, I gotta be an ass clown. So you're absolutely right. And I'm the guy who's obsessed with just the martial arts. And I put on blinders and say, fighting is about fighting. And I can't help it. And I'm trying not to be drawn into it. I'm purposefully trying to ignore it. It's impossible. They are being rewarded for their behavior, which is questionable at best, which causes, if you got paid a lot more money for throwing a can of Monster Energy drink at somebody and you saw that made a guy a star, why wouldn't you do it? You're a young, impressionable athlete. Of course you'd do it.
And we've been in Las Vegas with a room full of UFC fighters getting ready to interview them. And one of the things they all recognize, they talk about the Conor factor, how every single one of these fighters realize, oh, you know what? It's not just about the fighting. We all focus on fighting. We now have to make some noise, especially if you get yourself into a position where you're going to be either challenged for a UFC championship or you're going to be a UFC champion. You want as many people tuning into your product as humanly possible. And a lot of them are uncomfortable because this is just unnatural for them to, talk this type of game and try to create their own hype. But they all understand it's all about the money, and you got to try to make as much as you possibly can in this game.
The problem with it is, go Google commoditization. Why does everybody make fun of a second interim belt, and then Conor had 2 and now he has 1, but it's only half of 1? Because commoditization is the idea that it all becomes the same. And if everything is the same, only the thing that's a little cheaper, sells. And if everybody is acting like Conor McGregor, it doesn't work. The reason when the Beatles came out and they were successful, all these other bands got bowl cuts and wore suits. Oh, because the Beatles were different, and their answer was be just like them.
Well, can't they be their version of Conor McGregor? Donald Cerrone was one of the guys who talked about Conor McGregor. I'm not saying be Conor McGregor, but be Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Make sure everybody knows that you're cracking the top off your beer with a karate chop, and you're always wearing the hat, and you're giving everybody the middle finger. You do that as big as humanly possible, and that's the noise that you have to make.
And you know why Donald Cerrone is the guy that comes to your mind? Because he's authentic.
Yeah.
It isn't. So let's go and get. Give me some mid-level UFC fighter, a 30 to 40 guy in any weight division. Just pull out
Uriah Hall.
Let's get Uriah Hall in a cowboy hat, drinking a Budweiser, giving everybody the middle finger. Is that going to work?
Yeah.
No.
I would say maybe.
Maybe. One time it might work.
It might.
One time.
But it's because Donald Cerrone is authentically Donald Cerrone, and that's why we like him. Conor McGregor's authentically Conor. Chael's not quite authentically Chael, but he is a cartoon character version of a brilliant entertainer. And Michael Bisping, the reason some of you love Michael, this is how this conversation began. The reason some of you love him, and some of us love him, and the reason some of you hate him is because he's authentic. This is Michael Bisping, warts and all.
That wraps it up for us. If you want to catch that full interview with Michael Bisping, you can go to download the MMA report on fightnetwork.com or catch it at youtube.com/fightnetwork.